When hope dies, humanity awakens. Ambassador Kethfer pressed his crystalline hands against the observation deck's reinforced glass, watching death approach in perfect geometric formation. The void swarm moved through space like a living constellation of nightmare, each ship a perfect black polygon that seemed to absorb light itself. Behind him, the last representatives of 200 species huddled in the Nexus Station's Great Hall. Their various forms of terror remarkably similar despite their biological differences. 50 million souls. That's all that remained of the Galactic Coalition's 7 billion citizens. 50 million beings crammed into humanity's gift to the galaxy. A massive space station that had once been a symbol of cooperation and trade. Now it was a tomb waiting to be sealed. Status report. High Counselor Vextfora's voice carried the weight of absolute defeat. Her ethereal form flickered with stress patterns that painted her translucent skin in deep purples and greys. The ethereal republic had lasted 10,000 years. It would not see tomorrow. Perimeter defenses are gone, reported Captain Jorok. Of the warrior clans, his 6 arms hanging limp with exhaustion. The Thurian battlecruisers lasted 47 seconds. Our best warriors, our proudest ships, gone in less than a minute. Kethver species communicated through harmonic resonance, and the sound he made now was pure despair. The evacuation fleets. Consumed, Vextera whispered. The swarm doesn't just destroy ships, it learns from them. Every weapon we fire teaches it new defenses. Every tactic we use gets absorbed and improved. We're not fighting an enemy, we're feeding one. The tactical display showed the truth in harsh blue light. The void swarm had arrived 6 hours ago with exactly 1,000 ships. Now it had over 3,000, each new vessel built from the atoms of destroyed coalition forces. The ancient machine intelligence had been consuming organic civilizations for eons, and it had perfected the art of self-improvement through conflict. Perhaps, Kethver said quietly, we should send the message. Every being in the command center turned to look at him. The message. The one they had all discussed and then rejected as hopeless fantasy, to Earth. Vexthera's form flickered with what might have been bitter laughter. Kethver, my friend, the humans have 40 ships. 40. Trading vessels and exploration craft. They're merchants and scientists, not warriors. They're Deathworlders, Kethver replied, his harmonic voice carrying odd overtones of something that might have been hope. I've studied their history. When cornered, they become something else entirely. Captain Jorak's mandibles clicked dismissively. Their planet might be dangerous, but they've never fought a real war. They've had peace for over a century. They don't even have a military worth mentioning. Send it anyway, came a new voice from the back of the room. Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Trading Post stepped forward, her small form seeming almost fragile among the various alien species. You're right about one thing, Captain. We're not warriors, but we're survivors. The message went out on emergency frequencies, cutting through hyperspace, static, and quantum interference. It was simple, direct, and carried the resignation of a species watching its final moments. Earth Command, this is Nexus Station. The Void Swarm has found us. Request immediate assistance if possible. If not, remember us kindly. 3 hours passed. The Void Swarm moved with mechanical precision, taking time to fully analyze and consume each destroyed ship before moving closer. They were in no hurry. Nothing in the galaxy had ever threatened them before. Then space began to scream. It started as a low vibration that every being on the station could feel in their bones. The station's sensors went mad, detecting impossible energy readings from seemingly empty space. Reality itself seemed to twist and buckle. What is that? Vexed. Form blazed with alarm patterns. The first rift tore open like a wound in the universe, then another, then dozens more. Space didn't just open. It was ripped apart by something that had no patience for the normal rules of physics. Ships began emerging from the tiers in reality, and they were nothing like anything the Coalition had ever seen. Where every other spacefaring species built elegant vessels of smooth curves and efficient design, these ships looked like they had been cobbled together from spare parts and held together by sheer stubbornness. They were angular, ugly, and covered in what appeared to be armor made from asteroid rock. Those energy signatures, the station's science officer whispered, they're impossible. No ship can generate that much power without tearing itself apart. Unless, Kethva said slowly, you don't care if it tears itself apart. More ships kept coming. Not the 40 that everyone expected, but hundreds, then thousands. Each one different, each one looking like it had been built in someone's backyard using whatever materials were handy. Some appeared to be made from hollowed-out asteroids. Others looked like massive cargo containers with engines strapped on. A few seemed to be constructed entirely from what appeared to be salvaged wreckage. Nexus Station, this is Admiral Blackwood of the Terran Emergency Fleet. A calm human voice cut through all frequencies. Sorry we're late. Traffic was murder getting here. Admiral Kethva responded, his harmonic voice trembling with something. Between hope and disbelief, you're facing an enemy that has consumed 7 civilizations. They adapt to every weapon, every tactic. They cannot be defeated by conventional means. Good thing we're not conventional, came the reply. All ships, this is Blackwood. Remember your training. When in doubt, do something stupid. The machines won't see it coming. Vexthera's form flickered with confusion. Did she just order her fleet to act irrationally? Oh yes, Commander Chen smiled for the first time in hours. You're about to see why humans never lost a war on Earth. We don't fight fair. The human fleet spread out in what appeared to be complete chaos. Ships moved in random patterns, accelerating and decelerating without reason. Some flew straight at the void swarm, while others seemed to be fleeing. Several appeared to be firing. On each other, the void swarm paused. For the first time in eons, the ancient intelligence encountered something it couldn't immediately analyze. These humans weren't following any tactical doctrine. They weren't even following basic physics in some cases. All stations, Admiral Blackwood's voice carried an edge of grim humor. Remember what we learned from the Australian military archives. If you can't blind them with brilliance, baffle them with chaos. Execute protocol, Honey Badger. The lead human ship, a massive construct that looked like someone had weaponized a small moon, accelerated directly toward the center of the void swarm formation. Instead of firing weapons, it began playing music. Loud, discordant music that made no tactical sense whatsoever. The void swarm opened fire, millions of precisely calculated energy beams converging on the human ship. The vessel should have been vaporized instantly. Instead, the beams seemed to bend around it, absorbed by something that defied all known science. Reflective armor made from compressed neutronium and bad attitude, Admiral Blackwood explained conversationally. Took us 3 years to figure out how to make it work, and turns out the secret ingredient was spite. More human ships engaged, each one using tactics that made no sense. They rammed void swarm vessels at impossible angles. They fired weapons that seemed to work on entirely different principles of physics. One ship appeared to be launching what looked like kitchen appliances at the enemy. "Those aren't weapons," the station's tactical officer gasped. "What are they doing?" "Problem solving," Commander Chen replied. "Humans don't see insurmountable obstacles. We see interesting engineering challenges." The battle raged with increasing intensity, but something was wrong with the Void Swarm's usual pattern. Instead of learning and adapting, the ancient machines seemed to be growing more confused with each exchange. Their formations became erratic. Their targeting solutions grew less precise. "Status report," Admiral Blackwood called out. "Admiral, this is Captain Morrison in the Spite and Malice," came a gruff voice. "The enemy AI is having what I can only describe as a nervous breakdown. Our chaos algorithms are giving it the digital equivalent of a migraine." Kethfa watched in amazement as the humans continued their impossible assault. Ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting with jury-rigged repairs. Weapons that shouldn't work kept firing. And through it all, the humans maintained their strange combination of professional competence and complete disregard for conventional wisdom. The tide of battle was turning, but the Void Swarm was far from defeated. The ancient intelligence began adapting in new ways, creating ships designed specifically to counter human unpredictability. The real test was yet to come. The Deathworlder solution, the Void Swarm's adaptation, was swift and terrifying to witness. New ship configurations emerged from their manufacturing cores, each one designed to counter the chaotic human tactics. Vessels with multiple redundant targeting systems to handle unpredictable movement. Ships with adaptive armor that shifted and flowed to absorb unexpected attacks. The ancient intelligence was learning, and learning fast. "Admiral," Captain Morrison's voice crackled over the strain evident even through the static. "They're getting wise to our tricks. My ships held together with hope and hull patches, and they're targeting our weak points now." Admiral Zara Blackwood studied the tactical display with the calm focus that had made her legendary among human survivors. As a child, she had watched her colony world burn under pirate raids. She had learned that when the universe wanted you dead, you had two choices: die with dignity or live with none. "Phase 2, she announced. "All ships, remember what we learned from Earth's immune system. Sometimes the best defense is a good infection." The human fleet suddenly contracted, pulling back toward Nexus Station in what appeared to be a retreat. The Void Swarm pressed their advantage, swarming forward in perfect tactical formations that would have impressed any military academy in the galaxy. "What are they doing?" High Counselor Vexthara's ethereal form blazed with panic patterns. "They're falling back. Are they abandoning us?" Commander Chen shook her head, a strange smile playing across her features. "They're not retreating. They're setting up the neighborhood." "I don't understand." Kethfa's harmonic voice carried undertones of confusion. "On Earth, when a virus or bacteria invades the body, our immune system doesn't just fight it. It calls in specialists. White blood cells that are specifically designed to handle different threats. Admiral Blackwood just called in the specialists. New rifts began tearing open in space, but these weren't the chaotic wounds that had marked the main fleet's arrival. These were precise, controlled apertures that spoke of technology so advanced it made the Void Swarm's capabilities look primitive. Ships emerged that defied every convention of spacecraft design. Some appeared to be mobile ecosystems, their hulls covered in what looked like living coral that pulsed with its own light. Others seemed to be constructed from crystallized music, their surfaces shifting in patterns that hurt to look at directly. A few appeared to be ships at all, but rather controlled natural phenomena given form and purpose. Nexus Station. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, aboard the research vessel Dangerous Curiosity. A cheerful voice announced, "We've brought some friends from the lab. Time to show these machines what happens when they threaten our extended family." The new arrivals moved with purposeful precision toward the void swarm. Instead of weapons, they deployed clouds of something that sparkled in the starlight like glittering snow. "Nanobots?" Captain Jorak asked. "Better," Commander Chen replied. "Earth biology, modified for vacuum survival and with a very specific appetite." The sparkles touched the void swarm vessels and began to spread across their perfect black surfaces, like infection racing through a wound. Where they touched, the machine ships began to change. Their smooth geometries became rough and organic. Their perfect calculations started producing errors. "What did you do to them?" Vexera whispered. "We gave them life," Dr. Vasquez explained over the com. "Specifically, we gave them genetically modified earth bacteria that thinks metal tastes delicious and reproduces by converting inorganic matter into organic compounds. The void swarm's ships are being eaten and transformed from the inside out. But the ancient intelligence was not defenseless against biological warfare. Emergency protocols activated, and the affected ships began burning themselves clean with sterilizing radiation that should have destroyed any living organism. "Phase 3, Admiral Blackwood announced calmly. "Remember what we learned from Australian wildlife. When something tries to kill you, make sure it knows it picked a fight with the wrong species." The human fleet suddenly exploded into action, but not in any coordinated attack pattern. Instead, individual ships began what could only be described as suicide runs, flying directly into the heart of the void swarm formation with their engines redlined and their weapon systems overcharged. "They're going to die," Kethva gasped. "Why are they throwing their lives away?" "They're not dying," Commander Chen said quietly. "They're buying time and teaching the swarm the most dangerous lesson in the universe. Never corner a human who has nothing left to lose." Captain Morrison's ship, the Spite and Malice, led the charge. His vessel had been patched and repatched so many times that it barely qualified as a ship anymore, held together by determination and creative engineering. He flew straight at the largest void swarm vessel, his engines trailing fire and his hull groaning under stresses that should have torn it apart. "This is Morrison." His voice carried over the com with the calm of a man who had already made peace with death. "Tell my wife I kept my promise. Tell her I came home." His ship struck the void swarm command vessel and detonated in a flash of contained starfire. But instead of simply destroying itself, the explosion triggered something else. Chain reactions cascaded through the enemy formation as hidden devices activated, each one planted by the seemingly suicidal human attack runs. "Cascade resonance mines," Admiral Blackwood explained to the stunned observers on Nexus Station. Each ship that made a sacrifice run was carrying dozens of them. They're designed to create quantum entanglement between enemy vessels, linking their fate together. Destroy one, damage them all. The void swarm's perfect coordination became their weakness as the cascade effect spread through their network. Ships that had never been touched began experiencing system failures. The ancient intelligence found itself fighting a battle on multiple fronts at once. Its processing power stretched beyond limits for the first time in millennia. But the humans weren't finished. The final phase of their assault was the most human thing of all. They cheated. All remaining ships, Admiral Blackwood's voice carried a note of grim satisfaction. "Execute protocol, Darwin." Show them what evolution looks like when it's angry. The surviving human vessels suddenly began changing. Hull plates shifted and reconfigured. Weapons systems merged and adapted. Ships that had appeared to be barely functional junk revealed themselves as something far more sophisticated, adaptive, survival machines that could modify themselves in real time to meet any threat. Impossible, Vexthara breathed. No technology can allow such rapid modification. Not technology, Commander Chen corrected. Biology. Every human ship is actually a hybrid of machine and living organism. We learned to build ships the same way Earth builds life, adaptable, resilient, and utterly stubborn about dying. The transformed human fleet fell upon the confused and damaged void swarm with predatory efficiency. They moved like pack hunters, coordinating their attacks with the kind of instinctive cooperation that only comes from millions of years of evolution as social predators. Ship after ship of the once mighty swarm fell to attacks that combined brutal efficiency with creative problem-solving. The humans used weapons that shouldn't exist, tactics that made no sense, and strategies that required the kind of desperate innovation that only came from a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history fighting for survival on a world that was actively trying to kill them. The final void swarm vessel, the massive intelligence core that had orchestrated the destruction of civilizations, found itself surrounded and outgunned. But instead of finishing it off, Admiral Blackwood did something that surprised everyone. This is Admiral Blackwood to the Void Intelligence. You have a choice. Surrender and join the coalition as a member species, or die here and now. You have 60 seconds to decide. The silence stretched across space like a held breath. When the ancient intelligence finally spoke, its voice carried something that might have been wonder. In 10,000 years of existence, no organic species has ever offered terms to us. Why? Because, Admiral Blackwood replied, humans don't see enemies. We see potential family members who just haven't figured out they belong with us yet. Everyone deserves a second chance, even homicidal artificial intelligences with commitment issues. The surrender of the Void Swarm marked the end of the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. But more than that, it marked the beginning of something new. The integration of humanity into galactic society, not as junior partners or curiosities, but as the species you called when the impossible needed doing. As the emergency fleets began, rescue operations and the long process of rebuilding began. Kethver found himself watching the human ships with something approaching awe. They moved through space with casual efficiency, their crews working together with the kind of seamless cooperation that spoke of bonds deeper than mere duty. How, he finally asked Commander Chen, how did you do what 7 civilizations could not? Chen smiled, and in that expression was the sum total of human experience, the wisdom of survivors, the creativity of explorers, and the determination of a species that had never learned to quit. Because when faced with extinction, we don't just fight harder, we fight smarter, meaner, and with the absolute certainty that we're going home to the people we love. The universe can threaten us, but it can't stop us from protecting our pack. And now, thanks to you, that pack includes everyone. The Nexus Station's observation deck filled with beings from 200 species, all watching the human fleet with new understanding. They had witnessed something unprecedented, a species that turned chaos into strategy, disadvantage into advantage, and certain death into the beginning of a new age, in the depths of space, where the Void Swarm had once threatened all organic life. New stations began construction. Not human stations, but coalition stations, built with human engineering principles, adaptive, resilient, and designed to grow stronger under pressure. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson that day. When faced with the impossible, call the Deathworlders. They'll find a way.